Hello and welcome to our webinar, Effective Strategies for a One-Card Solution. On behalf of Comdata, I would like to thank you for taking the time to attend today's event. Our speakers will be Craig Keller, Vice President Strategic Sourcing for PSC, and Bob Sneed, Vice President of Comdata Corporate Payments. At the conclusion of the presentation, we will take your questions online. To ask a question, click the arrow to open your control panel and select the Question and Answer tab. Simply type your question into the box and then hit send. You may type in a question at any time during the presentation. I would now like to hand things over to Bob.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking the time today for our one-card program strategy, a presentation by Vice President of PSC Corporation, Craig Keller. Craig has 22 years of business experience, 15 of those years with PSC. In industrial services and industrial waste management, he has kind of led the charge for seeing procurement spend and cost reduction. Today, Craig manages some $320 million in overall spend, and he has a background in logistics management, storage, and distribution as well. We're very pleased that he's joined us today, and we look forward to his comments and remarks. Craig, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Bob. Well, PSC is a company headquartered out of Houston, Texas. We have about 3,800 employees across the country. At times, that will peak around 4,500 employees. 120 locations nationwide, everywhere from Hawaii, Alaska, down to Florida, up to Maine. Our 2008 revenues were in excess of about $675 million. Of course, with today's economic downturns that have happened out there in the marketplace, it's a little bit shorter than that. We're probably looking to be about $660 million. Our safety record is outstanding in the industry. We've received many awards from our industrial and petrochemical clients out there. We are one of the top companies in the fields that we service. We have three major divisions in PSC. We have an environmental division, which gets involved with handling things such as hazardous, non-hazardous waste services, household hazardous waste events, lab packing, retail environmental waste services as well. We are the primary provider for companies such as Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart's, Sears, Kmart's, Rite Aids, and so forth. We also have remediation and consulting services. We do excavation, transportation, disposal of materials. We have treatment centers. And we also get involved with some area missions and permitting and modeling. On our industrial services side, we have hydroblasting services, which involves a lot of field services folks, very blue collar. We have chemical cleaning services, vacuum services, tank cleaning, oil field services, and explosive services as well. On our container side of the business, we have about 23 tank washing facilities. We do IBC cleaning, rail car cleaning, and over-the-road tanker cleaning. Going on to the next slide. Our management in PSC is very decentralized from an operating model. As you can imagine, we came together from an acquisition company about 8-9 years ago, and they put together about 320 different mom-and-pop companies. So we came from a very decentralized. We had about 100 different operating systems that we were at one time trying to manage and organize a company through. We've actually got that down to one main operating system this past year, so we've made major strides in that portion of the business. We have three major divisions, as we just went over. Each of those divisions, they have three regions each. So we're very decentralized, and we have a lot of hierarchy and a lot of management structures within the organization. Going into the economic impact to businesses or to our business this last year, our third-party revenues are down about 17%. Depending on the different sectors, the environmental services division is down about 10%. The retail business is actually up. We've grown tremendous market share within that sector of the business. Our industrial services is down with the petrochemical markets about 23%. But as most of you are seeing right now with the price of oil going back up, those markets are starting to bust loose. So business is actually starting to pick up, and revenues are starting to pick up in those areas. Our container services division is down about 17%. on the revenue side as well. And again, a lot of that had to do with the over-the-road transportation industry, which, as we all know, took quite a beating here in the first quarter, and so far in the second quarter is just barely starting to creep back in. The retail sector seems to be holding firm for us. Again, we're growing market share in those areas, but everywhere from the Sears and Walmarts, it seems like their volumes are holding firm, and business is continuing to we look for exciting things to happen in Q4. As we mentioned, the industrial sectors are down, and I'm sure everybody here on the call is feeling a lot of that impact. Some of the key initiatives to counteract what's going on in the economy out there for PSC was, number one, to manage our labor costs. With reduced volumes that were coming in, we had to take a real strong look at, how do we optimize the labor base that we have? How do we make sure that all the people that we do have are being placed on the bill, being billable to the customer, and really make sure that we didn't have any wasted labor or efforts going on out there in the field operations. From a sourcing side, we needed to rationalize our supply base. How can we better leverage the supply base in these down economic times? How can we go out and reduce the number of suppliers we use, leverage our spend? We have several very high expense commodity areas that we buy in that gave us an opportunity to really drive the market and to bring substantial savings back to the organization, not only today and this year, but even extend it out further. The third piece was to, how can we streamline the payment process in order to take advantage of the economies of scale? Could we reduce the number of invoices come in, of course, reduce the supply base? What would we do from a back office perspective to make it more beneficial to PSC to do business with these suppliers? Some of the things that we looked at, and I'm going to give you an overview of our current MasterCard payment solutions that we have. Our purchasing and travel cards, we have about 2,300 out there in the field. And again, the bulk of these cards are in the hands of very blue-collar workers. These folks typically, at the most, have a high school education. They're out there in the dirt and grime. They're handling hazardous waste materials, tank cleanouts, and so forth. Our current fleet that we have is about 2,200 active cards. Our cards are actually issued to individuals, but are also tied to our 5,000 assets that are roaming around the United States. We have an e-payable solution that we'll talk about a little bit further, which is a ghost card-based platform. Currently, we have 152 ghost cards issued onto that platform, and it's actually 5 companies that those are issued to, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about that here shortly. Our monthly charge volume that we're having out there right now is on the P-card side about $3.2 million per month. On the fleet, again, depending on the price of fuel today, is running about $900,000 a month. We purchase about 6 million gallons of fuel a year. On the e-payable side, we've got that up to about $1.2 million a year and expect that to grow significantly. Our target on that is actually about $56 million a year to run through that platform. And again, we'll kind of go a little bit more in depth on what that entails. The different card platforms that we have within PSC that we're currently leveraging through Comdata. Number one is the piece of plastic that you carry in your pocket for your P card and your physical cards. We use that for small purchases, individual travel, meals. Usually, our folks in the field, if they have to go out and buy tools, consumables, whatever, go into a customer site, that's the unit of method that we prefer they use for any kind of payments with some of the smaller supply base out there. And again, that's running about $3.2 million a month. We also use the ghost cards and virtual cards. We use these for travel purchases or reoccurring purchases that happen, such as toll booths or anything of that nature that comes up, permits, fees. On the virtual side, we use one-time emergency items. If we have a large item we got to pay for, if we have, let's say, Microsoft licensing that comes up for $500,000 every 6 months, for that as well. We would incorporate these two methods right here in about everything we do, as far as anything that is a one-time or non-continual event type purchases. We also have the per diem on the same piece of plastic, so we've incorporated all 3 of those areas into one card, but really 3 different distinct platforms. On the per diem side, we use that for employee allowances. If we have we have 3,000 employees out there that travel quite a bit. Each one of those people, if they go over the road and have to go stay overnight, we have to give them a per diem, and typically it's $25, $50 a day. In the past, we used to dole out cash for that, so we were able to really roll that in and make the platform accountable, make our people accountable, and really gain control by bringing that piece under this card platform. We also use a fleet card we just rolled out and implemented within the organization about 3 months ago, and we use this for procuring all fuel and selective maintenance. On the fleet card, as mentioned earlier, the cards are issued by individual, but are also tied to our assets. So when a person goes to the pump and is going to purchase fuel, they have to enter the last series of digits on the VIN number of the asset that they're fueling up, which is typically located right inside the door jamb of all of our vehicles. Gives us definite controls and accountability, and it also identifies for us, what asset the fuel is going in, what type of fuel, and also who the card holder is that is putting fuel into that asset. So we feel we've gotten a definite benefit with that platform. The last piece here is what we call e-payables, but it's a little bit different than what Comdata calls e-payables. Comdata has a platform, of course, that you can integrate into your AP systems, and instead of doing a standard check run, PO, and so forth, you can pay with their virtual card platform. We've kind of changed that up a little bit. We looked at it and said, well, we're not to that point of really integrating into our systems, and we were trying to cut the back off piece down. As I mentioned earlier, how can we bring savings in by eliminating personnel and eliminating processes that would have to happen on the back side? What we did is we looked at it and we negotiated with the vendors to institute a ghost card platform. We gave the vendors 2 different options on how they would like to run these ghost cards through, whether bi-monthly or every Friday, for all transactions that would happen for my given facilities. So, for instance, if I have a deal with a company called Baker Tank, and we rent $14 million a year in tank rentals out there, every 2 weeks they swipe the card for each individual location for all transactions that happen. It's a ghost card that's assigned to a location, that's assigned to a specific GL. So as soon as they swipe that card, it hits my GL the next day on the download, flows right into my accounting system. I don't have any PO, any reconciliation, anything of that manner that I have to do on the back office side. So I've eliminated, or we've eliminated quite a bit of processing that would happen in traditional PO type methods. It's worked very well for PSC, and it's something definitely that I would stress for anybody out there to really take a good hard look at. The supply base loves it, and we'll talk a little bit coming up shortly about some of the benefits that the supply base has by going to this method. Some of those benefits, are definitely from a cash perspective, from a DSO perspective. What we've been able to do is really leverage that supply base for longer term terms out there. Instead of going from a 12-month, we've leveraged this payment method, saying if we put this in place, you get your cash quicker. We want to extend the terms out 24, 36 months at the current contract pricing or reduced contract pricing. So we've definitely leveraged it any way we can. We've used it for consolidation of the supply base, as we mentioned earlier, centralization, and a consistent payment process. So from a supplier perspective, when you look at everything, all the value it brings you as a supplier, it's really attractive. Our initiatives, we're really geared towards delivering results. And one of the really cool things that's happened with PSE is our CEO, and one of the, walking down the hallway, the first thing he says is, "There's my #1 profit center." He looks at this, and the results are documentable, and they're pretty impressive. Over the last 2.5 years, we've been able to bring about $22 million in documented savings to PSC. We've brought in $2.7 million in cash rebates to the bottom line. I would say about 90% of those rebates have been through leveraging the Comdata platforms that we just talked about. We removed about 20,000 invoices annually by going to these different processes, and we currently manage about $320 million worth of spend. We've done that with four sourcing directors, 1 sourcing manager who handles all of our implementations, and 5 support staff who really focus in on managing the supply base out there, making sure that we got and we reconcile out to the cards to make sure that everything is correct that's coming across on the charges. Some of our 2009 and 2010 strategies out here are definitely to continue to consolidate the supply base. At one point, we had over 60,000 suppliers in our vendor management system. We're down to about 7,000 now, and we're looking to cut about another 40% of that supply base out within the next 12 to 16 months by going to these payment methods and preferred supplier status. We want to continue to leverage the market share out there to reduce our cost base and leverage the suppliers for longer-term pricing, especially in these economic times right now. It's the opportune time to go out there and really attack the market and attack those suppliers that have been supplying you for the past few years. Everybody's looking for volume and they're looking to lock in volume long-term. So it's been a great time for us to be able to go out there and generate these savings and cost reductions. Another strategy was to do all tight exception management reporting. And through our P card and TINA card, we've seen a lot of leakage out there. And I really stress, if you don't have some kind of management system or exceptions management system out there, look into any way that you can integrate one. There's a lot of leakage in those areas, and by developing an exceptions or thresholds tool that can kick out automatically, we've reduced our cost about 5% or expense about 5% in that area. So it's been pretty phenomenal for us. We leverage key categories for our electronic payables platform. Like I mentioned, there are a couple of those areas are rental equipment for PSC. We were spending about $25 million a year on rental equipment. So we really looked at areas that had high volume, high dollars, a lot of transactions. We focused in on those. Those are my three key areas to be able to drive costs and to drive processes. We first talked to Comdata, and I believe, Bob, we first met about 5 years ago, was to bring in a platform. Number one, we were looking at our per diems. We were spending about or posting about $7 million a year in cash per diems out there for our employees. Once we instituted the program that gave us accountability, gave us a platform to post these transactions on a daily basis and really have really tight controls, we actually took that down to about $4 million a year is where we're trending now. So we really don't know if it was leakage. We don't know where the funds were going. It was just a completely unmanaged area that Comdata brought a solution into PSC, and we were able to take that solution, integrate it, implement it very successfully, and it's paying dividends to PSC today. Another piece we were looking for was to consolidate our purchasing and travel cards onto a single platform. At that point, we used American Express, which also has a separate P card and TINA card platform. Neither is very durable as far as being able to put controls in place. We just found with the Comdata platform, by being able to consolidate those two together and add in the P card side, we had one piece of plastic in everybody's pocket compared to three cards that I call open liability or open stores. So it gave us a lot of control, gave us a lot of reporting and visibility. But I think the best part of it is being able to go out there and establish 20, 30 different specific profiles, lock down MCCs, and really gain control over those purchases being made. Another goal we had was to assign a corporate administrator for the oversight and transparency, and we were able to do that within our organization by showing the success of these programs. We have one designated person that manages the card platforms, has detailed knowledge on the capabilities of Comdata systems, and we have an administrative person now that actually issues and cancels all cards, also runs our exceptions program, which is, again, set up by threshold. Another goal was to make sure we could block unapproved vendors. Again, on the previous platforms, we had a difficult time being able to lock cards down, locking them down to only preferred suppliers in certain MCC categories. Again, with the Comdata platform, we were able to do that fairly successfully, and we can manage that and really have visibility into that on a daily basis. Actually, what we're doing now is within 24 to 48 hours, we have full visibility into any kind of transaction that went outside of our typical company thresholds. We were able to introduce advanced audit and exceptions management, as I mentioned. What we did is we developed our own in-house exceptions reporting. We set our own thresholds Again, because our workforce is very blue-collar, we don't have the technology out there in the field for these guys to be able to log into a concurrent system and really respond with entering their expenses. So we established a methodology that said, you know what, if they exceed certain amounts for a Walmart or for MCCs, that would kick out to their supervisor, who has to immediately approve, disapprove, or deny the charge, and of course from there HR actions or division finance actions come into play. So those were our goals when we first started looking at this. Some of the key benefits that have come through with all this is in-period costing is huge for us. Our biggest expense that we have as an organization is labor, and our labor is we have to pay our labor every week. So we have expenses going out the door. The other piece that we have is billable to our customers, which is goods and services. So what we were having happen by going through the old voucher PO method was that those invoices wouldn't show up back here to corporate for 30 to 45 days, and then of course you have all your manual input and everything that goes on with them. So the billings weren't going out for about 50 to 60 days to our customer. What this platform has allowed us to do is once a cost is initiated out there, within 48 hours we have visibility into that cost, what job it's been assigned to, and it's really it's taken our DSO from about 85, we're down to about 61, 59 to 61 now. So it's really helped from an in-period costing and billing perspective. Our CEO and CFO absolutely love it. There's no accruals that have to go on in these platforms. The costs hit immediately into the GLs. We've mitigated any risk we've had, or the majority of the risk, through these greater controls and visibility, and we've centralized all reporting on the activity. So we've really simplified the whole P2P aspect with everything that we have under this umbrella. The cost reductions, we've been able to take the payment terms, use this as leverage for negotiation for immediate cost reductions, extend those terms out, as I mentioned earlier, 12, 24, 36 months. And a lot of it is, it gives a lot of confidence to your supply base that, they're not going to have to chase invoices. They're going to be paid, especially in these economic times. A lot of them are a little skittish out there because of the marketplace and some of the news of companies going belly up, specifically those companies that are supporting the automotive industries and so forth. The program results, PO versus commercial card, you get an expedited response to meeting the customer requirements. Again, we're very labor focused. We have crews going out to service the customers from an old PO or standard method. We could really expedite response to our customer base. Guys have to pick up emergency materials to support that customer, and now they don't have anything that inhibits them from doing that. In the old methodology, they had to call in, get a PO, make sure the supplier was set up in the vendor master system, and it could be an hour to 3 hour delay with a crew of 12 guys that sit unbillable. So this method has really enhanced our ability to service our customers. It's given us control, data integrity, automated GL allocation, which is huge for us, and the timely and streamlined integration. The benefits that we've had, as you guys have seen, the rebates are in excess of $2.7 million. Last 2.5 years. Year to date, we're sitting at about $600,000. And these rebates are over and above the negotiations with the supply base. So just an example is moving a supplier from typical 45-day payment terms down to weekly, leveraging that for a 3% quarterly rebate. That's a lot of systems into play. We typically do that after we've negotiated pricing to make sure that they're not trying to tack that 3% on the backside. We've been able to leverage this for paid resources. We actually went to some of these companies and that we've developed these primary supplier agreements with, leveraged this ePay program that we have, and have actually had 2 areas that we've gotten suppliers to fund our personnel to manage those programs to ensure that they're getting compliance and getting the volumes that we're looking at out there. So again, by leveraging the platform and the supply base, we're really being able to self-fund this program. Reduced line item cost structure. You know, any supplier out there will tell you if you're paying in 45, 50, 60 days, they're building that float into the cost of your product. When I ran distributorships, that was one of the things we looked at. You know, was how long was the float going to be out there, and your price based on that float. We extended the negotiating pricing terms. Again, you know, we've taken out deals that typically were 12-month programs, where every 12 months you had a integrated price increase, and we've locked that current pricing model in for 24 to 36 months, again, based on the quicker payment and the leverage that we're using in the marketplace with these platforms.
Craig, thank you very much. Craig, you and your team produced impressive results. They're quantifiable, and they're recognized by your management team as truly contributing value and cost savings to PSC, helping you weather the storm in this economic crisis and positioning you well as we come out of it. At Comdata, we're pleased to play a part and a role in PSC's ongoing success in purchasing, fleet, and travel expenses. Our goal when we created the multi-card platform was to provide our customers with a flexible commercial payment solution. For the cardholder, a product that was accepted worldwide, that was safe and secure, and provided the cardholder with a core set of benefits and services to meet their needs when and where they needed it. For the company, we wanted to provide greater control and flexibility, transaction transparency, data integration, and reporting. And that's what we've seen occur in customers like PSC and others. They've been able to take advantage of the infrastructure to customize and configure a program that meets their needs. When we talk about flexible program options, we've just heard Craig talk about how they use the platform. The Comdata physical card is used at PSC for travel expenses. For purchasing, the same card is also used to administer per diem expenses, as he articulated earlier. Advances to individuals who need a cash advance for whatever purposes. And it's also used to manage his fleet of vehicles. He further leverages the platform by taking the Ghost card, putting it into an e-payable solution. So he's able to pay his suppliers effectively, streamline the payment process by using a Ghost card. Future development and future data integration will position PSC to take full advantage of the virtual card platform, which is our unique card number for each and every disbursement. So across the board, each option provides meets a necessary requirement for Craig and his team, whether it's physical, Ghost, or virtual card. I think one of the most important aspects of the Comdata PSC relationship was meeting the requirement for a one-card solution. Craig came to us early on in our discussions and said, I need payment flexibility. I need a card that's accepted and provides our company with the right data at the right time to act upon to drive cost savings and efficiency improvements. And we need to bring together the right people, processes, and product innovation to meet our needs. So what we did is we leveraged Comdata's unique infrastructure to help Craig and the PSC team reduce costs, drive process efficiency savings by using the power of two networks. Craig uses the Comdata MasterCard, and he's using it to provide fleet needs, to meet purchasing needs, to meet his per diem needs. That card can be routed and processed on two distinct networks. One, the MasterCard network for all of his travel and purchasing requirements. It runs on the MasterCard for his per diem advances. But when his heavy-duty trucks are buying fuel in truck stops, it processes on the Comdata network, giving him the ability to negotiate discounts well below the cash price and drive further cost savings. But best of all, either network is brought together and provides Craig and his team with consolidated reporting regardless of the network the transaction was processed on. That gave PSC complete flexibility, complete accountability, and one system for all reporting needs. Now, Craig couldn't do all of this on his own, and he mentioned that he had administrative support to help him. Jessica, one of his program administrators, has been instrumental in using the Comdata tool provided her for online program administration. This is a very safe, secure online environment for real-time transaction management. And Craig and his team use this online application for card management to track the transactions and gain complete visibility to each and everything that happens, to build their exception reporting from, to access reporting by cost center, by region, by business unit, and then track data analytics to drive further process savings. Comdata's reporting tools help Craig and his team meet their needs when and where they are to supply management with the right information at the right time. So timely reporting and data management were one of his key requirements when he met with Comdata, and we're delivering that through real-time access to information that's easy to access, that's flexible, that provides him custom data inquiries. We talked about the importance of exception reporting. We provide a host of exception reports. Craig's further augmented that by doing some of his own exception reporting, which gives him better visibility to mitigate risk and any potential leakage. We provide a complete set of reporting online 24/7, 7 days a week. As we close this section out and we open it up to your questions, I want to point out that one of the highlights of Comdata's year is to host our annual users conference. This year it will be held in Marco Island, Florida, August 9th through the 12th. Registration is now available and it's free to you by logging on to www.comdata.com to learn more. The user conference provides you, your administrative staff, with an opportunity to join us for 3 days in a wonderful setting and to learn firsthand from customer experiences and how they use the one solution to drive cost savings, gain better control and visibility to the transaction activity, and give impressive results back to the organization like we've heard about today. So I encourage you to take a moment to look at the site and register today. There are just a few days remaining in the registration process. With that, I'll turn it back over to Heather.
Thank you, Bob. We will now begin answering your questions, any questions that you might have. To ask a question, click the arrow to open your control panel and select the question and answer tab. Simply type your question into the box and then hit send. Bob?
Thanks, Heather. Greg, we look forward to taking some questions from our audience here. And so as we open it up and get prepared, let me say what a pleasure it's been to work with you today, and thank you so much for your participation. Very enlightening. Here's our first question, Craig. When it comes to building a business case for transformation from one system to another, what were your company requirements, and how did you make an effective presentation to senior management to move from multiple systems to one?
Well, number one is what is going to be the impact to the field operations. As always, you want to put into consideration that, is it something that's going to be implementable? Is it something that's going to be effective? And what is going to be the opportunity there from a success rate as well as a return for the organization? We were able to take these platforms to our senior management level and really lay out what the benefits were compared to our current business model at that point. It took a lot of diligence, it took a lot of analysis on what the financial benefits were, Bob. It took a lot of understanding of the benefits that were going to bring the organization, what we bring those benefits to the organization, and what the resources were going to, what we were going to require to get there. It takes a lot of planning, and it takes that dedication to really understand what your ultimate goal and focus is going to be. From a resource perspective, you have to have people you can really assign to this. You have to have folks like we had on our side. Jessica Foat was just phenomenal on from an implementation perspective, and it gave her a definite career advancement opportunity to really focus in on this type of platform, understand it, and man, she's just taken off from an implementation perspective for PSC. So it's been a great thing for us. But you definitely have to have the dedicated personnel to put on it.
Well, that's a great segue into our second question. What are the attributes of an effective program manager?
It has to be somebody that is again, really geared towards understanding accounting systems. I mean, you're really going to integrate into your accounting folks, into your finance folks. It takes somebody that is very strong on communicating with your field operations folks. Somebody that is issue resolution oriented, because there's going to be times when there are going to be issues, and you have to do a lot of study on how things integrate into your financial operating system. So it takes somebody that has that drive, that fortitude to really make this successful. And again, if you find the right person up front and you have the person in house, all the more better.
Super. Craig, you've talked a lot about the advantages of Comdata today. Can you tell us specifically why you chose them?
Yeah, one of the things that I've seen from the other platform companies, and we had another company that's a major competitor of yours on the fuel side just recently as last year. We had those folks for about 5 years handling our fuel side. And really, when we took a look at it, we really didn't see any kind of efficiency improvements in their product or their offering. They couldn't meet our needs where we were trying to get to, and they just didn't have the innovation out there that we were looking for. So when we talked to the Comdata folks and brought our sales rep team in from Comdata, we were really able to understand the different platforms that you guys had to offer, the controls that we could put in place, and it took about 8 hours of brainstorming on how we could really make the application out of the box fit PSC, and it really has, and it's been successful. From a field platform perspective, just to give you an idea, Bob, we've taken at first what we thought was just going to be a handover from one company to the next. We've seen benefits of about 9% on revenue decrease over the first 4 months of this program. So it's been pretty phenomenal, the benefits that we've seen. Specifically when we talk about being able to integrate a VIN number into the pump transaction. That was huge for us. We just never had that kind of control. You either had cards issued by equipment or you had by people, but you couldn't have both. With this platform and the innovations that you guys have made out there in the marketplace, we now have both. And it gives us that control and visibility we were looking for.
The next question, how important is it to provide ongoing program results to senior management?
It's always important. I mean, no matter where you go, what you do in any company, people, you got to keep producing results. So it's important to continue to show them the different innovations that you're coming up with, things that the next steps that you're going to. It took us quite a few years. I've been with PSC 15, and really over the last 2 years is really where we're seeing the senior management support really come into fruition. To the point of when the economy is up or down, they are coming to us asking us what our strategies are, how we can better the different divisions. We really drill into each individual P&L line item as well, and so it all stems from success. And if you can bring your senior managers a viable solution that's really going to bring out the best in the organization and the best of class, once you have that, it's rather easy now. I mean, it really comes naturally for them to accept anything you're bringing to them and jump right on board.
Here is a question. This particular company states that they use a PO for just about everything. While realizing that that's not the most efficient way to handle high-volume, low-dollar transactions, how did you develop an effective business case, and what research did you do in order to get your senior-level executives to buy on to go away from a PO system for those types of transactions, Craig?
Right. A really good example here is on our tank rentals. We were renting $14 to $17 million worth of tanks, and it's something that we have negotiated pricing on. So setting these companies up on the ePayables platform, we're able to make sure that we have auditable reconciliation done on the contract rate, number one. Number two is, this is one of those areas we actually have a resource paid for by a supplier, so we have an on-site person that is actually doing our central coordination. As long as we're doing the reconciliation to the contract pricing, and those invoices are coming through at those rates that we reconcile the reporting out to, they had no problem going to a non-PO method. It's all ghost card driven, so it enters right into the P&L. That was their other concern. So once you bring those two pieces up, the only issue you might have is from a SOX control perspective. But if you're a blue collar type company, typically you're going to have some kind of manual requisition process that you do out in the field, to where you don't have to enter it in the system, but you can still go through some approval processes, which is really all from a SOX perspective, that's required. So that's how we were able to do it, Bob. We have that manual piece up front that requires our sites, whether they do it after the fact or not, to fill out some kind of manual requisition, and they can still sign off on it in the field, and they can keep it on file. They can pull copies of those invoices at the end of the period. We have vendors send copies over in a PDF file. They can pull them right down, attach it to them, and do their own reconciliation if they feel the need. But again, we do that reconciliation back here at our corporate office, just about 10, 15 minutes a month, just to reconcile it against the Comdata charges.
Craig, have you noticed any acceptance level improvements since going to the MasterCard that you didn't have with previous programs in terms of the card's acceptance?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, everybody knows that from a transactional rate perspective, it costs the merchants quite a bit more utilizing an American Express. As well, there's a lot of merchants out there that just haven't converted over that platform because of those transactional costs. So going to the MasterCard platform is probably the most aggressively priced card out there in the marketplace. So from an acceptance perspective, we really haven't had any issues. We've actually taken a couple big companies on the waste disposal side, which traditionally didn't accept any kind of electronic payment method, and have converted them over to where they're now accepting a MasterCard in lieu of going 88 wire or stamp check.
This is a question I'll take. It says, is there much of a difference between the acceptance of MasterCard versus Visa? I will tell you that most of our research on that would indicate that they're pretty much at parity. Both Visa and MasterCard maintain very strong networks of in excess of 25 million merchants worldwide accept the program. More than 5.5 to 6 million U.S.-based merchants accept those programs. You will find some isolated instances where that's not true. An example would be Sam's Club. Sam's Club accepts the MasterCard program today exclusively and does not accept a Visa product. So you might find some unique situations like that, but they're pretty much at parity. Where you see large discrepancies in acceptance would be from American Express, Discover platforms, where they just don't have the merchant acceptance from a pure purchasing and fleet perspective. If there are other questions, please feel free to ask them at this time. We've pretty well answered all of the questions that have been posed to us up to this point. This webinar will be archived and available for viewing at a later date on comdata.com, so please feel free to revisit this or share it with other constituents that weren't able to make the webinar today. This is part of Comdata's ongoing series to educate you and inform you on the use of our products and services and how companies are benefiting from those, hearing their unique application of the products that may stimulate thoughts on how you could change and improve the way your company utilizes such commercial payment applications. Craig, once again, I really do appreciate your time today, and we value you as a customer and look forward to many more years of service together. Once again, I would like to remind you to visit www.comdata.com, take the link to the upcoming user conference, make sure you review the itinerary. It'll be 3 fun-filled packed days of education, learning, and play, and you can get registered today. There is no fee for the conference, and it's a wonderful opportunity for you to engage in discussions with people like Craig and other customers that are using our services. With that, I'll turn it back over to Heather. We thank you so much for attending today's webinar and look forward to seeing your participation in future ones.
Thank you, Bob, and again, thank you to Craig as well. That concludes our presentation for today. As Bob mentioned, a recording will be available, and we thank you very much for your time.